BookTube, I'm Vanessa, and today, since it is New Year's Eve, I wanted to talk about the best books that I read in 2018. First of all, I just want to apologize. I know I missed a video last Thursday. It's because I had the plague, and to be honest, I'm still not 100% better. My throat is really still killing me, so I'm gonna try to get through this video pretty quickly so that I'm not talking and irritating it too much. But yeah, I just wanted to review like the best books that I read in 2018. These aren't all books that came out in 2018, they're just books that I read for the first time in 2018. The first book on my list is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This book is about fairies, and Holly Black writes fairies so well, in my opinion. Like, her version of what fairies are and what the Fae world is aligns so closely with what I imagine and what I want to believe fairies and the Fae world are. Holly Black crafts them very dark and very prickly, but still with that like whimsical folklore element to them, and as well as her stories are just really good like fantasy YA stories. Like, it's really the best of everything that I could ever imagine. The next thing I want to talk about is the To All the Boys I Loved Before series, which I read for the first time this year, and I know it's gotten a lot of hype with like the Netflix movies coming out and everything, and it deserves it so much. This book series makes me feel so cozy and so happy, and even though I wasn't into the love interest, like I did not even approve of the romantic relationship happening in these books, I still loved them. And I think that that's something that's hard to do in a contemporary romance series, because there's just so much value in them besides the romance. Everything with Lara Jean herself and her personality and her little quirky attitude and style, as well as her family and her relationships with her father and her sisters and her ambitions and like her wanting to go to college and figure out where she wants to go and everything. It was all so good, and it made me feel so cuddly and just so happy and warm, and I love it so much. The next book I want to talk about is The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. This is a memoir of Jeanette Walls' childhood growing up in extreme poverty and with parents who I would call very neglectful and even abusive at times. And it really explores that complicated relationship that she has with her parents themselves and with her childhood in general. The fact that on the one hand, these are her parents and she loves them and she knows that they love her as well. And her childhood, you know, living in it, it was whimsical, it was fun. You're a nomad, you're going out and sleeping in your car in the desert. It's an adventure. But on the other hand, looking back at it, you realize, how could your parents care so little about you? How could they be so self-absorbed to do some of the things that they do to her in this book? And through telling these stories to the audience, she tries to balance and reconcile those feelings. And the book is just so good. It's entrancing to listen to because it almost is like so dramatic that you're just sucked into like what the heck is going on. But at the same time, those like deep feelings and emotions about it come through, and she portrays them so well, and I just really loved this book. The next book that I want to talk about is The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis, and I want to preface this by saying that in a lot of ways this book is not good, especially in the sense that it was kind of one of its taglines was that it's an examination of rape culture, and I think that in that aspect this book failed miserably. Ali Corver actually has a video talking about all the ways in which it failed as an examination of rape culture, and I agree with her. I think that the aspects of rape and rape culture in this book are written too shallowly and too superficially and just too stereotypically for me to really appreciate it as an examination of rape culture. However, this is still one of the best books that I read in 2018 on another level, because the level that I really liked it on was an examination of female rage. This book follows several high schoolers. One of them is a girl whose sister had been previously raped and murdered, and she had taken revenge on her sister's killer. Another girl it follows is just like the shy, quiet, meek preacher's daughter girl in the high school. Another one, I believe it follows the boy, like one of the boys at the high school who I think may be a love interest at some point, I can't remember exactly. And another female character in the story, I don't think we get her perspective, but she does play a prominent role, is kind of like the popular cheerleader, over-sexualized, kind of like blonde bimbo character. And honestly, I think that that range of different types of girls and different types of ways they express their rage towards the patriarchy and the system of rape culture was really, really brilliant. You know, you have Alex, the main character, who has literally murdered someone over the fact that he hurt her sister. She has this very visceral and violent aggression in her. And then we have PK, the preacher's daughter, who's so shy and quiet and good and pure, and a lot of times we overlook those girls and we think they are mild and not aggressive, but this book showed, there's a scene that I really liked where PK finds a bag of puppies or kittens or something that somebody had killed and abandoned and like left in the street. And I liked her character because I feel like she examined the way that even girls that are gentle and nurturing and kind, that gentleness and that nurturingness lends itself to rage so easily because it is so often taken advantage of and because they see the weak things in the world that they want to take care of being hurt. And then the popular girl character I think was an amazing examination of the way that even girls who have found a way to fit into the system and to follow the rules and to be, you know, what the patriarchy kind of wants them and expects them to be, she is still angry. She's still a woman who has feelings and thoughts, and I just, like, I think that that cast of female characters and all the different ways in which female rage manifests itself as a response to rape culture was really amazing. So I still really liked this book, even though maybe it didn't do the thing that the tagline wanted it to be doing. The next book that I want to talk about is Blood, Water, Paint, and this is about Artemisia Gentileschi, who was a Baroque painter and one of the first and like only really prominent famous female painters of her time period. Her paintings are really well known for the way that she portrayed females in a way that is so different to the way that male painters were portraying us, obviously. And her paintings have so much to say about that concept that like men want to take control of women's stories and paint us in a way that they want to see us and tell our stories in a way that is beneficial to them. And Artemisia was actually sexually assaulted when she was very young, and she made the very brave and very, at that time, controversial decision to take her rapist to court and try to prosecute him, which obviously, as you can imagine, it's still something that is relevant today, resulted in her being the one on trial. Her being the one whose career and reputation was on the line while her rapist is getting off basically scot-free. And I think that this book portrayed all of those things so beautifully. It's actually written in poetry format, so it's quick to read, but it's also so emotional and personal without being too detailed. And I might be biased because I'm kind of an Artemisia fangirl. I did like a whole report on her for my art history class, and she's one of my favorite historical figures, and I love her so much. So I'm aware that this book might just be me loving Artemisia Gentileschi and her story, but I enjoyed this book so much. It was definitely one of my favorite books all year. I know I mentioned a really long time ago that I was going to do a full video discussing the historical context as well as Artemisia's paintings and the symbolism and just like the whole context of this book, because I know a lot of people didn't get that from the writing itself, and I want to make a video where I kind of try and fill in those blanks so that maybe people can get an appreciation, even if not for this book itself, for Artemisia. And I still plan on doing that. It's just taking a little while. I want to make it really good. So I'm probably going to be doing that within the next month or so. And then the next few books that I want to talk about are books that I read for Halloween. I had a really good October and November reading month this year. I read so many of them were so good, and it was so hard to narrow them down. But I really liked Dread Nation by Justine Ireland. This book is about historical zombies. It is set after the Civil War, and now that zombies have broken out, the slaves who aren't slaves anymore are sent instead to like combat school and combat training so they can learn how to defend the white people against the zombies. And obviously that's a lot of social commentary in itself about, you know, the aftermath of the Civil War, and the book has so much commentary on issues like that, as well as modern day issues that are relevant today, such as police brutality and things like that. It is all amazingly wrapped up in this historical setting with freaking zombies, which I think is so original and so cool. Another book I loved in October was Undead Girl Gang, and I actually wasn't expecting to like this as much as I did because it seems like a really like juvenile, really silly, it could have easily gone like flat and superficial and meh, but in my opinion, it was actually so well crafted that even though it was campy and it was silly and it does have this like silly Buffy cheesiness to it, it didn't feel stupid and it still felt like it had a lot of important messages to convey and a lot of depth to it that I wasn't expecting. It had subtlety and it had nuance and it had depth, but it also still just had fun. And I think that a book that can combine all of those things together so wonderfully definitely deserves praise and recommendation. So Undead Girl Gang, honestly, it's great. Even if you don't care about all that stuff, this is about a girl whose best friend commits suicide, but she doesn't really believe that it was a suicide, so she does a witchcraft spell to bring her best friend back from the dead. Unfortunately, the spell goes awry, and she also brings back the two like really snotty popular cheerleader girls that had also committed suicide the week before. So now she has these three undead zombie girls hanging around and they're trying to solve the mystery of who, if anyone, murdered them. Such a good book on so many different levels. And then the last book that I want to talk about that was a favorite in 2018 was the Diviners series by Libba Bray. And I know I'm so late to the party on this, but like, I'm glad I showed up to the party at all because it is so good. The book is set in 1920s New York, so it's very like glitzy and glam and fun. However, we also know that there was a lot of not so glitzy and glam things in America's history going on, and the book also does so much justice to them as well. And our characters are from all different walks of life and all different backgrounds and ethnicities and sexual orientations, and it's such a good and representative ensemble of characters, and they're dealing with such interesting and intriguing supernatural things going on, and everything in this book combines so beautifully. It's serious and it's fun and it's spooky and it's romantic and it's just everything that you could ever possibly want in a book, in my opinion, and I loved it so much. So if you are also late to the Diviners party, please still show up. Like, these books are so good and they deserve to be read, and I just love them. Hey guys, it's Vanessa from the future. While I was editing, I realized that I totally forgot to talk about The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, and I didn't want to leave this book out because it was so good. So here I am. It's not great lighting, kind of last minute edition, but whatever. This book is a retelling of Frankenstein, but it's from the point of view of Elizabeth Lavenza, who was Victor Frankenstein's childhood friend and wife. And this book I thought was, first of all, such a cool idea to do Frankenstein from that perspective, and second of all, I thought it was a really interesting examination of kind of things women sometimes have to do and sacrifice in order to survive or make it in a society that is structured around the idea of them not being able to do those things by themselves. In the story, Elizabeth is an orphaned child who has no means of her own, and she's adopted by the Frankenstein family, and kind of every choice she has to make and every aspect of her identity doesn't get to be for herself. It has to be dependent on who she needs to be to the Frankenstein family in order to keep herself alive and in that position in society where she's cared for and that she has the means to survive, basically. And it was just a really good book. Like I said, it was very original, the plot was very exciting and very interesting and intriguing, and I thought it had a lot of really interesting things to say as well. So anyways, back to regular video Vanessa. And those are all of the books that I wanted to talk about as favorites of 2018. I hope that you guys liked this video, and I hope that you are going to check out some of these books because they're all amazing and they all need to be read. Let me know in the comments if you also loved any of these books or if you're planning on picking any of them up in the future. Again, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If you did like it, you can go ahead and give it a little thumbs up because that really helps me. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, you could do that too if you wanted to. I make new videos every Monday and Thursday when I'm not deathly ill. And I just love talking about books, and I hope that I get to hear from you soon. Bye!